How are we? How are we? Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Deadline stream. It is game week 8. It is the end of the international break. I hope you are all doing well and had a nice break, but it's definitely good to know that we've got some FPL to talk about and watch this weekend. Thank you all very much for joining. Sorry, my mic is playing up with me today. And yes, that's why, oh no. Oh, the timer is out by an hour. Hang on. Let me get that fixed. Let me just text. Captain, cool. Let's dive in. Let's do the usual round of hellos before we get into the stream. And then we'll get into all of it. We will talk about Enzo. I'm already seeing lots of Enzo questions in the chat. So let's say hello to some of you first. And then we will get into talking, I'm sure, about him and other options like Alderete. Lots of options with potential doubts around them this weekend. Hello to Matt. Hello to Louise. Hello to the retail guy. Thank you for joining as a member. Hello to Fiona. Hello to Robin. Hello to, who else have we got? Sanderpan. Hello to Ewan. Hello to all the members and moderators in this morning. And then hello to everyone else. I think, and I don't know whether there's been an update on YouTube that has changed the way that the chat looks, and it now shows your handles instead of your names, which is really annoying. And I noticed that Studio looked different yesterday when I was doing my member stream, and I didn't think anything of it. But yeah, the names have changed. Has it changed for all of you as well? Fiona's saying it has. That's very annoying. Why have they done that? Because I recognise people by names. So people have got to go and change their handles now. Because I saw Fiona's and was like, oh, why has it got loads of things? Is that a bug on my end? But yes. No, the deadline is not. Let me take that off for now. Let me take that off. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, let's say hello to some of you as best I can, though. FPL Down Under, Lewis, Eric, Salah, Musama, Flynn. Who else have we got? Trojan. We've got Martin, Simon, Tail, Timber. Oh, no, that was part of a question. 4D, Tiger, Wolverine, Talk FPL, N60, Ever, Todor, FPL Virginia, The Face Man, Julian, Bins, Philip, Shane, Little Foxy, Mr. Dobble, Ian, Chippy, Michael, Martin, Luke, Casey, Sean, FPL Thomas, Bobby, and Harry. That is really not ideal. Makes it very difficult to read. But anyway, let's talk about it. So, I mean, let's start off with the Enzo Fernandez thing. If you're in a position where you're considering buying Enzo Fernandez this week, I would be really cautious of it. Apparently, he didn't train on Thursday, wasn't pictured in any training photos. Then yesterday afternoon, there was more training photos and he still wasn't in any of those. He wasn't pictured getting onto the team bus. Now, you might just think that he's definitely going to play. And I would still say I'm more yes, I think he'll play than I don't think he'll play. But I don't think that the possibility is high enough to buy him without some sort of news or some sort of indication this morning. The other thing, and so a few of you mentioning Caicedo in the chat, is Enzo and a few of the players often post a thing on their Instagram the night before a game, and no one had until about 9 last night when Caicedo did, and Enzo Fernandez still hadn't. Now, it's not the be-all and end-all, and it doesn't mean everything, but it's just a little bit of a hint that maybe Moises Caicedo is okay and maybe not the other way around. So, listen, if you've got... I probably wouldn't be buying Enzo. I probably wouldn't buy Caicedo now new. I'd be more confident buying Caicedo, but I probably wouldn't buy either of them unless there was something positive in the next hour or two before the deadline. So I don't plan on buying Enzo into my team for this week. I spoke about that in my complete guide video yesterday, but I definitely wouldn't be buying him if we don't get any sort of information this morning. People saying he was pictured in the training centre video that Chelsea posted. He was pictured arriving at the training centre, which is pretty normal. Even players who are injured for quite a long period of time will still be turning up. Like Delap will probably still be turning up to those training centres, especially after an international break. He wasn't really pictured in any sort of kit. He was I think, from all I saw in that video, he was pictured arriving, getting out of his car, walking into the building, and that was about it. So, it's not great. I wouldn't punt on Enzo. If you're on a free hit, I wouldn't. If you're on a free hit or a wild card, I posted updated drafts of both of those in my complete guide video yesterday, which if you want to have a look at those, if you're on either wild card or free hit, I would go and have a look at. But yeah, I wouldn't be buying it. The other one is Alderete. I'm slightly more confident that Alderete will play. He has been pictured back in training, so I would expect him to be in the squad. It sounds a little bit like it's just fatigue from him and a late travel home rather than there being anything too much to worry about in terms of an injury. So I would be more positive about Alderete than I am about Enzo Fernandez, yeah. Yes. So a few things. Start Petrovic or Dubravka. Now, I should have, they might not be going round right now, a thing in the top right which will show all of the benching rankings for you, and it will have things like goalkeeper benching rankings. So I will just leave that up and it will be in the top right hand corner in just a moment, which will probably answer your Petrovic Dubravka conundrum. Would I buy Enzo if you're on wildcard, even if he doesn't start this week? Yes, I would still own Enzo on wildcard. Nothing has changed from my complete guide video where I said I would own Enzo and I would have, like, my wildcard draft that I built had Enzo with Sarr first sub. I think that's absolutely fine because I don't think it's a long-term issue for Enzo. So yes, I would still own him on wildcard. And would I own Eze and Gabriel third, Arsenal, Saka or Timber? I still prefer them double defence. I think there's attackers that can get close to some of the attackers that we've got, like a Saka, like a Gyökeres. I think there's other attackers which will get close to them. But I think the Arsenal defence will keep by far the most clean sheets this season. Rodgers to Sarr or Bruno to Saka and get Enzo game week 9. I would say Rodgers to Sarr is probably a bigger upgrade this week. Rodgers has just not been at it. As someone who owned him for the first 6 weeks or 5 weeks of the season, yeah, I would be getting rid of Rodgers to Sarr first. If I had my team, would I be looking to bench boost this week? Probably not. If we got positive news on Enzo, I would be inclined to bring forward my game week 9 moves of Tarkowski to Rodon and Stack to Enzo and bench boost with that. But I don't think I'd bench boost my team if I still had the chip available. I played it, I think it was game week 4. Or was it game week 5? One of the two. Game week 5, I think. One of the two. Bench boost then with Alderete and Anthony. Alderete and Anthony. I expect they will both play. Would two of them be enough to put me off? Potentially, but I still think Alderete and both of them will play. Both of them will play, is the prediction. Richards or Van de Ven. Again, I think both of them are in the benching ranking, which will be up in just a moment. Enzo news, nothing really. My prediction is he probably just about starts, but I'd be surprised if we hear anything between now and the deadline. Wildcard loading, 3 Arsenal. Gordon, 3 Arsenal and Haaland, Gordon, Gakpo or Minte. It depends. If you're not going Voltamada, I quite like Gordon. I'm not sure I'd double up on the Newcastle attack. They don't look quite free-flowing enough going forward. But I like Gordon the most. I'm not sure I'd be going Gakpo. Just think there's so much uncertainty of what's going on at the... of what's going on at Liverpool right now, and particularly in terms of who's starting and who looks like a good option. So I'd probably go Gordon, or just save the money on Minte. Sorry, I had something in my throat. Is Esteval a good Chelsea pick with the yellow flags? So I think Esteval is a good pick this week. I quite like him as a free hit punt, as a 1 week punt, but as the matches come thick and fast, I cannot tell you that he's definitely going to play every week. I would err on the side of caution. I wouldn't be buying Esteval. I love him, and I think he's a great pick this week, so I think he'll probably start. But yeah. Cameron, Bruno and Gyökeres to Saka and Bowen worth a -4. Not for me. I could do those transfers for free, and I'm not going to do it. So I don't think I'd be doing it for a -4. Enzo on wildcard. So just to clarify everything on Enzo before we talk about something else, is I would say I'm about 55-60% that I think he will play, but that's not high enough for me to buy him or recommend you buying him. I would only buy him into your teams if you are A, on wildcard, or B, we get some sort of positive news between now and the deadline. So if there's something that, he gets pictured arriving at the stadium or something that's positive, then fine. But until we get that, I don't think we're in a position where we can buy Enzo Fernandez. I still would go with him on wildcard because I like him as a long-term pick. But I wouldn't be buying unless we get that. Should I bench boost with Dubravka, Anderson, Ndai, Tarkowski? If not, I have 3 free transfers. Should I do 1 transfer and then activate bench boost? I'm not sure that team's great for bench boost this week. I don't know what the rest of your team looks like, Daniel, but I would probably go and wait and save that for a few more weeks. I double Everton away at City. Dubravka is fine. Anderson against Arsenal that's probably not a bench boost for me. Opinions on Ndai to Sarr and João Pedro to Walter Mada. I wouldn't be selling João Pedro or Iliman Ndai, I don't think. I'm not selling either of those. I could do both of those transfers if I wanted to this week, and neither of them have really come into any sort of consideration. I like Ndai. The issue with Ndai is it's City this week, and I feel like over the international break, there's people have... I don't know, but I feel like people have lost faith in Ndai recently. But I think he's still a very nice long-term pick. And the other one is João Pedro, that I still think the fixtures are great. I'm standing strong with João Pedro, despite the fact that he's been disappointing and he actually fell in price last night. Which I was a little bit surprised at. You have to choose 2 between Senesi, Richards, Anderson and Tarkowski. Assuming you'd play Sarr over Stack, should I bench Senesi? You'd play Sarr over Stack, yes. Choose 2 between Senesi, Richards and Anderson. I'd probably bench Anderson. I still think Senesi is better than Anderson. I know you don't want to play a defender against an attacker, but I I would still bench Anderson. Start Senesi or Reinders. I think both are in my start bench. Maybe I put this up for a little bit longer. But yeah, I would start Reinders. I think Reinders is fine this week at home to Everton. Saka essential. Is Saka essential? Wildcard, Burn, Saka, Waltemada versus Timber, Eze, Bowen. I don't think Saka is essential. I think he's in my top 3 Arsenal players. Definitely. But would I go Burn, Saka, Waltemada, or Timber, Eze, Bowen? I mean, the second one has double Arsenal, whereas the first one only has one. Like, I think Timber Eze is better than Saka, but that one's way more expensive, it feels like. I would go the Saka route there, if you can. I like the squad structure of having a Saka or a Bruno, at least. Start Caicedo or Ndai. I'd start Caicedo if you've got him, I think. It's quite close, that, though. It kind of depends on how you feel about Caicedo's minutes. Because we could get reduced minutes for Caicedo, and then it's not quite as good because he's less likely to hit DEFCON. Yeah, Salah and João Pedro, the 2 most sold players going into game week 8. Feels like something there could backfire. But, yeah, we'll wait and see. Hopefully it's João Pedro and not Salah, because I still don't have him, and I don't really have that much of a plan to buy him back. I mean, I could get him in not too many transfers. I probably could get him in 3 moves. Gyökeres, Bruno, and one other person would probably get me to Salah if I needed to, but until I see something more from him, I just don't have a plan to go there. Don't have a plan to go there. I think Caicedo probably starts. I think Caicedo probably starts. I think he's more likely to than Enzo. Would I bench boost with Dubravka, Enzo, Alderete, and Diouf? Would I bench boost with Enzo now? Your bench boost is great. Like, if Enzo was fine, that would be one of the best bench boosts I've seen all season. Alderete at home to Wolves, Diouf at home to Brentford, Dubravka home to Leeds. Like, it looks great. Would I bench boost with Enzo, though? I find that really difficult to answer. I mean, the rest of it feels good enough that even if Enzo didn't play, you'd probably hit 10 to 15 points. So maybe you take the chance, yeah. Stack or Ndai? I'm going with Ndai. I know a few people are wondering why I'm rolling the transfer when my team doesn't look so great this week, and I do understand it. I do understand, like, my team isn't fantastic. Gyökeres is disappointed. Bruno's disappointed and dies against City. But I just think, I still don't think the Gyökeres to Saka move is definitely worth it. It might be, and it might be something I consider even next week. But I still think Ndai is worth keeping, and Bruno is worth selling if I need the money for something. But if I'm going to get an upgrade for Stack regardless, then I don't feel like I need to. And I understand that people would sell Bruno in a heartbeat from my team, and that's completely fair. But I still think he offers a lot. Is Alderete fit? He has been pictured in training, so quite positive that he should be. Ndai or Bruno to Enzo. If I had to sell one of Ndai or Bruno, I'd probably sell Bruno. Yeah, I'd rather sell Bruno than Ndai, because at least it frees up money to do something else. Like, the Bruno to Enzo, Stack to Sarr moves are very tempting. So at least the downgrade of Bruno frees up money for you to go and do something else. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. There are 3,000 of you in and only, and 278 likes. So 3,000 of you haven't liked the stream. If you could, that would be... That would be fantastic. João Pedro for Igor Thiago. I wouldn't sell João Pedro this week. I wouldn't sell to anyone, I don't think. I wouldn't sell to anyone. Bench Evan Nilsson, Illiman and Dye, or... Who's the other one? I've lost the question. Evan Nilsson and Dye, or... I just found it again and then I lost it again. I'm determined to answer the bench. Evan Nilsson and Dye or Reinders. Probably and Dye. I don't love the Evan Nilsson pick. I'm starting to come round to the fact that he's just not an FPL pick. And that he's just a good player for a good team that doesn't get enough points to be an FPL pick. And I can't really explain why, but he just doesn't seem to score enough goals. Maybe it's going to be a bit like what the Arsenal striker does, that they're very involved and they do an awful lot for the team, and they're never going to, not going to come out and get dropped. But are they going to be focal enough in the way that they score goals to be worth a pick in our teams? I don't love the Evan Nilsson one, but I probably would play him over and die this week. Gakpo is a good option. I think he's a fine option. I probably wouldn't be buying new to Gakpo. He did do well over the international break, but I don't think I'd be investing new right now, if I'm honest. All your players are playing today. Are they? No, surely United is tomorrow. Liverpool, United. Oh, the only player I've got tomorrow after today is Bruno. I was not aware of that. Gonna have to hope out that Bruno does something on the... Yeah, but that's it. It's the only player. Hope you're well. Bench 3, Rodon, Lacroix, Virgil van Dijk, Senesi, Romero, Salah, Kudos. Bench 3. Okay. Probably Rodon or Senesi is quite close. I'd probably bench Romero. And I'd probably bench Anderson. Still got Watkins in there. I would be looking to sell him, although it looks like he's all right, at least for this weekend. What should you do with Richarlison? I think he's okay this week. He'll probably start this one, but I think he's a sell pretty quickly. The benching before the international break was enough to concern me. Would I... Calvert-Lewin, or Reinders. I would play Reinders because I just trust City more than I trust Leeds and Calvert-Lewin. There's been lots of talk over the past couple of weeks on Twitter about Calvert-Lewin as a pick, and I think he's a good pick, but I think he's a good pick if you can play him sparingly. If he's your 8th attacker, I think it's fine, but yeah. Thoughts of getting Timber over Gabriel to save funds. I still think with the amount of fixtures between now and the new year that there is enough grounds to go for Gabriel over Timber, but I like them as a double up, and I don't think it's a definite no. Like, if you want to go Timber over Gabriel as a bit of a differential and you to save a bit of money, I don't have a massive problem with it. I still think I would recommend go Gabriel first. Like, that is my ranking. Gabriel is top, Timber is second, but Timber is still my second best defender to buy this week. So I'm not all against it. Thoughts on a -4 to transfer Zubimendi and Bruno to Saka and Gravenberch? Gay, Senesi, Rodon, play 1. I'd probably play Gay because attacking threat is also good. Bruno to Enzo if he starts, or Foden to Enzo next week. Bruno to Enzo if he starts, or Foden. I'd rather do Foden to Enzo because I just don't think we're going to get anything for you to buy Enzo this week, if I'm honest. How do the 5 free transfers work in the African Cup of Nations? So in game week 16, you will have your transfers topped up to 5, and then you can keep them for as long as you want. So if in game week 15 you have 4 transfers, if you don't use any of them, you will still only get an additional 1 in game week 16. But if you use 4, you will then get you'll get up to 5. So it's not 5 additional, it's you get moved to the maximum, which is 5. It gets moved to the maximum, which is 5. So in game week 15, there's going to be a lot of transfers to be made for people. And then in game week 16, when you've got 5 free transfers, everyone's going to have to make at least 1, if not 2 transfers in game week 16, because if you don't use them, you'll lose them. Caicedo or Anthony of Burnley? Probably Anthony. Why Pope above Dubravka? So Burnley are bottom in the league for expected goals and expected goals conceded. Unless there was, I don't know, something crazy made me need to play Dubravka, or he was part of a bench boost, I would still pretty much always bench Dubravka. If Dubravka had Leeds at home and maybe your goalkeeper was away at City, then I'd start to consider it. But as long as your other goalkeeper has got a half-decent fixture and is better defensively than you get from Burnley, I would probably look to bench your Dubravka. I know we played him earlier on in the season and he got a clean sheet, I think, in game week 2. But FPL Captain has fixed the timer. Thank you very much. Does Enzo in for Bruno too? I wouldn't buy Enzo. Back to Enzo for a lot of the questions. I wouldn't buy Enzo unless we get something between now and the deadline. To be honest. Bench boost, Dubravka, Stack, Tarkowski, Alderete. Yes, probably I would, yeah. I just think this is a good week for a lot of people to get rid of the bench boost. And for anyone who's already played it, will definitely be sat there thinking to themselves, I'm glad I don't have to deal with playing the bench boost anymore. And I definitely feel like that. The fact that I don't have to look at my bench in the next couple of weeks and think, is it good enough? Do the transfers I make affect that? I'm just happy about that. Let me have a look. Nightmare. Does Enzo in for Bruno? Oh, you didn't finish the message. All good. Which tool do I use for streaming? I use OBS connected to YouTube. Right, I'm really cautious that I've got a bit of a cold and my nose is feeling like it's going to start to run. So I need to just grab a tissue and I'll be back in 20 seconds. We're back. Right. Whoa. Thoughts on a -4 transfer? Zubimendi and Bruno to Saka and Gravenberch. I don't really like the Gravenberch pick that much. He doesn't get DEFCON enough, and the attacking returns are not consistent enough. So I don't also love the Zubamendi pick for very similar reasons. So I don't love either of those. So it feels like buying a player from Liverpool or Arsenal for the sake of buying a player from Liverpool or Arsenal, if I'm honest. Would I bench boost Dubravka, Stack, Anderson, and Tarkowski? This chat, right? Hang on. Oh, that is... Oh, no. Hang on. That is better. My chat was really small, and then I couldn't really read it properly. There we go. That's better. That was 40 seconds. Apologies. We're back. There's lots of you considering a bench boost, and I probably would, for a lot of you, if it doesn't include... If you've got Enzo, unfortunately, you've got to just take a sort of gamble on whether you think his minutes are reliable enough. If the rest of your bench boost is really good and you've got Enzo, I probably would. If the rest of your bench is okay and you've got Enzo, or the rest of your bench boost is not that inspiring and you've got Enzo, then maybe I wouldn't. So it will depend a little bit on how good some of the other players are. One of my current plans this week, I'm going to roll my transfer. This week. I think next week I'm likely to buy Enzo for Stack and downgrade Tarkowski to Rodon. I think that's the most likely plan for me. But yeah, I think this week I'm just going to roll. If you still had bench boost and 4 free transfers, what would I do with my current team? If I still had bench boost and 4 frees, I'd probably roll still. And I think the bench boost looks okay in a couple of weeks. I think game week 11, there's definitely plans and room for my team to bench boost it in game week 11. Would I bench boost my team this week? No, I don't think I'd bench boost Tarkowski. Would I sell Mbermo to Enzo? So I wouldn't buy Enzo unless we get some sort of news between now and the deadline. Thoughts on Virgil van Dijk to Gvardiol? I feel like Gvardiol is a good pick this week, but I also do feel like the time to buy Gvardiol is a little bit gone because the fixtures from next week are a little bit more difficult. So I'm not sure I would... Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be buying Gvardiol now. I mean, I'd also probably be keeping Van Dijk now. Would I bench boost with Alderete? Yes, I probably would. Still start Enzo over Richarlison. Yes, if I've got Enzo, I probably would take the chance on him. I wouldn't be benching him. Like if I bought him, I'd definitely start him. If I was on wildcard, I would start him. I think Waltamada did go up in price last night. Yeah. Who would I start? Enzo, Xhaka, and Caicedo. If I had to bench one, I'd probably bench Caicedo. I'd almost certainly play Xhaka. Enzo, Chelsea's X shows Enzo's walking out of the bus. When? Sorry, just someone said that, but Chelsea haven't posted anything today. There's this week there's a video of him arriving at the training centre this week at some point, which is a very normal thing. Yeah, that is from yesterday. Sorry, could I please add Ismail Assar to the benching ranking? He's above pretty much everyone on that benching ranking. I've had a couple of questions about that. I would almost certainly be starting Sarr if you've got him. Maresca stirring the pot, quite possibly, and also not including him in any sort of photos is also possible. But if he's not trained and he's not being pitched in training, we really have to take it at face value. There's not much more we can really do. You feel like I'm avoiding starting 4 defenders on purpose. I don't know, just Anderson against Arsenal and Tarkowski against City just doesn't feel great this week. I think there are some weeks in the future that I might be able to do it, but I still just have it in my mind that a back 3 is still the way to go. But the DEFCON definitely opens up the door of a back 4 in particular. Bench Xavi Simons or Ndai, or sell Xavi Simons to Enzo Sarr. I'd probably keep Xavi Simons for this week and then sell him to Enzo next week would probably be my advice. You sold Gyökeres for Voltemada last night before the price rise. Should I get Saka for Bruno if Enzo doesn't start or get a third Arsenal defence? If you've got money to do Bruno and you've got the open spot to do Bruno up to Saka, then I'm not opposed to it. Like, it is probably an upgrade. I don't know whether it's that needed. I would prefer double Arsenal defence than that one, though. Like, Saka in for a -4 for Bruno. I just don't think I also don't think Fulham away is a particularly easy fixture for them. If I'm honest, I don't think it's the best week to be diving in and chopping and changing your Arsenal players because I don't think it's the best week for them. Who's the best captain this week? Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland. Voltemada price change. Yeah, he went up in price last night. Start Reinders or Enzo. Maybe you take the minute security and you play Reinders now. What's the reason for not changing Bruno for Saka and changing Gyökeres for someone? The fact that I don't think it's worth 2 transfers. I still think Bruno is a decent long-term hold, and I still think Gyökeres has the potential to also still be a good pick. I don't think it's worth the 2 transfer swap just because Saka took a penalty on his in his 200th game at home for his 100th goal contribution. That Saka took a pen, that it necessarily makes Saka definitely a better pick. I do think Saka is a better pick, but it could easily swing back the other way at some point. 3 free transfers. Bruno and Gyökeres to Saka and João Pedro, Van de Ven to toss in. I'm guessing you need the Van de Ven to toss in move to give you the money for it. I'm not sure. I mean, Saka and João Pedro is definitely better because I like João Pedro, but Van de Ven to toss in this week, I'm not sure that's worth 3 transfers. Kudos, João Pedro or Enzo Bowen. You're asking the wrong person about Kudos, but I have to say, there's been a lot of discussion this week in my comments about Kudos, particularly because I've said in 2 videos now that he's overperforming, but he is overperforming in line with the likes of João Pedro and Semenyo, who are both in my team and both in my top 2 players to buy in both of their positions, right? Now, Kudos' fixtures just get harder. They get more difficult. Over the next few weeks, they have a difficult run of games. Kudos. Sorry, do I say kudos? Kudos. But I then went out of my way Wait, someone said it's the other way around. Oh, it is kudos. Kudos is what you give someone on Strava. Right. Kudos. Anyway, I then went out of my way to listen to a specific Spurs-related podcast to hear what they've got to say about him. And they are more positive about him than maybe anyone I've heard. They basically said that he is so important to the team that even when he might not look like he's going to get returns, but when the team play well, he's so important to them, which we've seen before with a few players where their data's not great, but they're so focal to the team that they will just continue to do well. So it did make me wonder a little bit if I've got the whole kudos thing wrong. I still think I'd be buying Enzo Fernandez. I'd be buying Ismail Assar over him for the time being, but probably don't go selling him. I think some of the fixtures coming up are maybe not quite as difficult as I'd have wanted. So I think he's all right. I still think there are better options to buy going forward, though. Stock 2 of Cucurella, Virgil van Dijk, or Daniel Munoz. I think Van Dijk is probably the one I'd bench. I'd play Cucurella, and I'd almost certainly play Munoz. That's difficult, though. If you've got all those defenders and you're having to bench one this week, I wonder who the other one that you've got that you're benching as a result is, or starting over them is, because I'd want to start all three of those, to be honest. Anirud, which trio? João Pedro, Xhaka, Senesi, or Calvert-Lewin and Dai Gvardiol? And Dai, João Pedro, Senesi, Gvardiol. I think I prefer the João Pedro Xhaka route. I think. It's quite close, but I think I do. Transfer out Gyökeres and Mbeumo to Saka and Voltemada. Is that okay? I don't mind that because I think selling Mbeumo is slightly better. I'm still not certain it's worth the two moves because that left-hand side of Liverpool have been quite weak, I would say, whether it's, going to be Kirkes again. And I think Mbeumo has the ability to do quite well in that game. But yes, I probably think if you've got the luxury, if it's your only two transfers, I probably wouldn't. It feels like two sideways to use up all your transfers. But if you've got 3-4, then maybe it's okay. Sanchez or Pope on wildcard. I probably would go Pope. I do have a wildcard and a free hit draft up on my complete guide video yesterday for anyone looking to play either of those chips. You can check it out there. Do I think Enzo starts? I think I'm 60% yes, but that's probably too low for me to recommend you buying someone. Is it worth to take a -4 to bring in Saka? Probably not. It depends who you're making way. What do you mean when you say it's not worth two moves because it's two transfer situation at all times? I more mean if you're doing like Saka and Gyökeres or Saka and Voltemada for Bruno and Gyökeres, it feels very sideways to use up two transfers on because there are lots of things over the next few weeks that you might want those transfers on elsewhere that I'm not sure that is necessarily the single best use for them. Adams, John Mateta to DCL on wildcards, upgrade Richards to Munoz. No, I'd go Mateta because I think from game week 10 onwards, having Palace already in place is really nice. So I prefer Mateta Richards. Bench Xavi, we did that one. Amy, play Burn, Richards, Senesi or Rodon. You have Gabriel. I'd probably, they are, where did I put them all in the benching ranking? Sorry, who have we got? Burn, Richards, Senesi, Rodon. Senesi, Burn. Yeah. I would probably bench Burn, I think. I think I'd bench Burn. Away at Brighton's not great, and Brighton do have a pretty good record against Newcastle. So, particularly in terms of scoring some goals. So, I probably would bench Burn. I like Burn a lot as a pick, but I think this week he's one of your weaker defenders. Would I bench boost if I had this team with Rodon over Tarkowski? That probably would be enough for me to change it. Yeah, probably. So, for example, if you have my team and you're wondering about bench boosting or you have similar, I'm wondering about doing Tarkowski to Burn and Stack to Enzo next week, but you could do Tarkowski burn. Tarkowski to Rodon, sorry, and stack to Enzo next week. You could just do Tarkowski to Rodon this week, not use your second transfer, and do stack to Enzo next week. Best differential captain this week, it will sound crazy, but it's Salah. I think 90%, I could do a poll, but I think 90% of people are captaining Haaland this week. So Haaland, Salah, Saka. I think Salah's the only person I'd really consider captaining that isn't Haaland this week. Would be Salah. What do I think of an Esteval punt? Yeah, as a punt, I like it if it's for 1 week or two before your wild card. But if it's not, then I wouldn't go there. I still think the minutes is too much of a concern. AFA, apologies. Bench 1, Strand Larsen, Minte or Enzo. That's quite tough because of Enzo being in there. I would be tempted to bench... I'd probably bench Minte, I think. If you've got Strand Larsen, I think you play him. And I probably would play Enzo over Minte. So I probably would bench Minte this week. I almost said Strand Larsen, but I feel like if you've got him for this fixture, you probably play him. Nothing on Enzo news, no. No. I don't think we're going to get anything before the deadline. I mean, if you've got a plan which involves Enzo, I would wait right up until the deadline, but I would be surprised if we get anything. I don't think we often get anything relating to Chelsea. Would I bench Richarlison for Van de Ven? No, I'd probably play Richarlison because I do think he'll probably start, yeah. You need a defender to change Tosin. I think Tosin will start. He's back, so yes. Give a percentage on Enzo starting, 60. The Enzo update is that he apparently hasn't trained and he wasn't necessarily photoed getting onto the team bus, but they didn't photograph everyone though. Gyökeres to Waltemada and stack to Enzo. That's interesting. That's another way to get the money. I could go triple Arsenal defence if I did that. I don't mind those transfers, actually. I'm not sure I'd be diving into sell Gyökeres just yet, and I wouldn't do it this week. Basically, I'd give Gyökeres another week. I don't think we can reliably buy Enzo this week. I wouldn't buy Voltemada away at Brighton as a replacement for Gyökeres, and because you can't, I don't think we can reliably buy Enzo right now. Then no, but I don't mind the moves potentially next week. The Watkins flag has been removed, so we are expecting him to be okay. Who's bench? Porro, Virgil van Dijk, Lacroix, or Senesi? Porro is attacking. Virgil van Dijk. Potentially Senesi. Senesi versus Porro is really close. If it was Senesi versus Van de Ven, I would say play Senesi. Porro does have a bit of attacking threat. Yeah. If you already have Enzo, would I start him just in case? Yeah, like on Wildcard, I'd own Enzo and I'd start him. Sean, apologies, let me look. Thoughts on Chalobah, looking to triple Chelsea with the fixtures. For decisions, marathons and watches. So, there's been a few questions on the Chelsea defence. Partly because I considered buying Sanchez. And I don't think it's out of the question. But I don't think Chalobah's nailed enough. I do think he will probably start. I just find the Chalobah one at 5-1 too much. Basically, it's a real interesting one because I know we got asked about it and we spoke about it on the FPL watch list on the Scout channel this week. And Tom and I find the Chelsea defense really difficult to answer if you're not buying someone like a Cucurella, because Chalobah and Tosin I think will be our first choice options, but I would want to see the lineup today, because today we have basically all our defenders are available. Fofana is fully fit. Tosin is fully available. Chalobah is back. And I would find it much easier to answer which Chelsea defender to buy after today. Part of me thinks that I'd rather Tosin at 4-4, just because if he doesn't play, he's a less of a, it's fine if a 4.5 defender doesn't play. Whereas if Chalobah at over 5 doesn't play, then it isn't quite as easy to take. So if you don't have to buy a Chelsea defender today, I wouldn't. I would wait and buy one in game week 9 if you want one. If you have to make the call now, I would probably go Tosin. But as someone else in the chat says, it's possible that we have Chelsea, I think one of Caicedo or Enzo will play, but it's not impossible that we have none of them. And then Chelsea are just much weaker this weekend. So, yeah. Tempted triple captain Haaland, what are we thinking? Yeah, I think it's fine. I think Everton are naturally a team who are pretty good defensively. So, do I think triple captaining at home to them is a great idea? I'd rather another fixture if I'm honest. But Haaland is in great form, and if he was to start picking up injuries again, we'd suddenly lose that option. So I'm not against it. He's had a nice rest and City are playing very well, but I still think I plan on saving mine. Caicedo or Zubimendi, I'd go Caicedo. I still think both of them are not great. I wouldn't be surprised if Caicedo only scores 1 goal between now and the end of the season. He scored 2 long-range efforts and a goalkeeper dropping it from a corner. I don't think teams will let Caicedo shoot from distance anymore. I think there'll be much more on it to close him down. Would I sell Foden? I wouldn't, no. I would give Foden this fixture. Yeah. I'd give Foden 1 more week. Start 2 of Burn, Romero, Rodon, Senesi. I believe all of those are in the benching ranking up on screen right now. So I believe I'd probably bench Romero and Burn. Bench boost with Ndai, Senesi, Alderete, and play Caicedo. If the other one's Dubravka, then yes, I probably would, yeah. Sell Esteve or Alderete for Chalobah, Burn, Botman for bench boost, and buy who? I don't think Burn or Botman or Chalobah are that much better than Esteve this week. To be honest, I'd be tempted just to bench boost with Esteve and Alderete, and then you can decide which of the other defenders you want. As I say, do we think Botman's nailed long term? Probably not. I'd probably go Burn. As I said with the Chelsea defence, if it's suddenly Tosin Fofana this weekend, then it's an issue. So if I had to buy one this week, I'd buy Burn out of them. But I would honestly just bench boost with Esteve at home to Leeds and Alderete at home to Wolves, and then buy one next week. O'Reilly, we have seen that Aït-Nouri is back in training for Manchester City, so I wouldn't be doing an O'Reilly move, no. We are less than an hour to go to the deadline. As always, we will put it into subscriber only mode. You literally have to have subscribed for 1 second to be able to start using the chat again. If you are not subscribed, please do so. And if you have already, there are almost 5,000 of you in who have not liked the stream for an hour already. So if you want to like the stream, that'd be great. We're close to 1,000 likes, so that would be great. John, let me have a look. What is the Enzo update? There isn't really. That's the annoying thing, is that he hasn't trained, and yeah, basically he hasn't been pictured in training. We don't know if he's actually trained or not, and if he hasn't trained, then he's not going to play. Would I do stack to Sarr to bench Bruno? Or roll and start Bruno? I'd probably just roll and start Bruno. I do think Bournemouth are a good side. Saka or Sarr? If you can get Saka, I prefer him over Sarr. It's just what you do with the rest of the money. So someone mentioned a question earlier that was... Sorry, just one sec. I'll answer these and then we'll do that. Gyökeres to Baltamada, Bruno to Saka. I'm not doing those moves, so the answer for me is no. And start Goodmanson and Dye or Caicedo. I'd probably start Caicedo. So someone said, would I do Gyökeres to Baltamada and stack to Enzo? And I actually did some planning with my team, and although I still think Tarkowski to Rodon and stack to Enzo is my most likely transfer, it did lead me in a few weeks to potentially do Gyökeres to someone cheaper and like one of my defenders to Virgil van Dijk. So that Gyökeres downgrade to upgrade a midfielder is actually part of my long-term plan. I just have a slightly different, route to do it over the next couple of weeks or the next while. I know it's not going to make for the most exciting stuff, but let me just move my mic slightly. So this is my team this week, right? And my plan is to roll. Then in next week, the plan is to do Enzo, and I've got Goodmanson, but it will probably be Rodon. It's just that Rodon went up to 4.1, which is just slightly annoying, but to Rodon with 2 transfers. It then means that there is a world where I don't use some transfers for quite a while. And I know that's not that exciting, but in game week 10, I'd have 3 transfers. And I would say most people will agree my team doesn't need a transfer. I've got Raya against Burnley, Gabriel, Anderson, Richards. I've got Reinders, Illiman and Dye, Bruno, Haaland, Gyökeres, João Pedro. I then play one of Semenyo and Enzo Fernandez. At the moment, I've got Enzo Fernandez as the one on the bench. In game week 11, I have similar. So I've got Raya against Sunderland, Gabriel against Sunderland. I've got Senesi away at Villa, but I'd probably play Anderson, I reckon, away at Everton. Richards at home to Brighton, Bruno against Spurs, and Dye at home, Enzo at home, Semenyo against Villa, João Pedro against Wolves, Gyökeres and Haaland. And then, game week 12, it looks like this, but I'd have 5 transfers. So it's not possible. It is possible that I make a couple of moves next week and then roll for a few weeks. Sorry, let me get my team back. Richarlison to Calvert-Lewin or Strand Larsen. I wouldn't be buying Strand Larsen. I just take the cheaper one in Calvert-Lewin. He's higher up in my forwards to buy from my video yesterday. Bruno to Anthony or Sarr. I wouldn't go to Anthony, I don't think. I know we've spoken a lot about players overperforming and it not being sustainable. And I feel like Anthony is definitely one of those that I just don't see him keeping it up. So, I mean, I know they've been good, but I would much prefer Sarr over Anthony. Gamble on Enzo or put in Sarr. So actually, my recommendation is if you don't have to do it, don't. And do it next week. Because I think Enzo next week is still better. But if you need one, I'd have to say I'd buy Sarr now. I think. Why not stack over one of my options? I've lost faith in stack a little bit. Sorry, I am just going to take... I'm going to put... Sorry. You have Enzo and Alderete. Can you bench boost? It's more the Enzo one. I think Alderete will play. Would Enzo put me off my bench boost now? To be honest, it probably would. As I said, if the rest of your bench boost is great, right? So let's say you had Dubravka, a good, let's say it was Rodon, Alderete, Dubravka, Enzo. I probably would bench boost that, because even if Enzo doesn't play, I think the other 3 players have enough in them to still make it a 10-point bench boost. But if your others are Dubravka, Tarkowski, Anderson, and Enzo, then I'm less likely, because basically what you need to do, if you've got Enzo on your bench boost, is take Enzo out. Do you think the other 3 players can get you to a minimum of 10? And if you think the other 3 players can, then I would still probably play it. If you don't think the other 3 players will, then I wouldn't. That's probably how I'd answer it. So, for example, if this was my team, but I had Stack and I had Enzo instead of Stack, Dubravka, probably 3. Anderson, maybe similar. Tarkowski, maybe 2. That's not enough for me to play the bench boost if I had Enzo over Stack in this team. And die to Enzo, yeah. So I wouldn't be buying Enzo Fernandez unless we get some positive news between now and the deadline. Right to Pope, you have Gabriel. Not this week. Pope away at Brighton is not a fixture I particularly like. You could look at it in a few weeks, and there's also another opportunity to do a similar transfer in about game week 12, I think. So you could wait for it further down the line. I don't think I'd be making that this week. Uh, 0.1 million, Bruno, Enzo, Guillaume Watermada. Yeah, so the answer remains that I wouldn't recommend anyone buying Enzo Fernandez unless we see something positive. If you want to take a risk, that's fine, because I still think I put him at a 60% chance of starting. So he's not a completely, you can't buy him. But my safe nature would say I wouldn't buy him unless we get something positive. Gordon on pens going under the radar. I like Gordon. It's just the slight early sub last week with Barnes every week. Like Gordon starting, Barnes on the bench. Okay, 75 minutes. Are we going to just see Gordon off, Barnes on? Like, that is why I have lowered my appeal on him slightly. On wildcard, I would still definitely go Enzo, yeah. Enzo Fernandez for 6 weeks at a minimum in the number 10 for Chelsea looks like a great option. He might not play in the number 10 every game. We might say Buenanotte in there. We might say Andres Santos play in there. But even when it's those two, he has more of a license to do a lot of the work when Palmer is not in the team. And Palmer is out for a minimum of 6 weeks more. And even when he comes back, I don't think we'll see Palmer playing 2-3 times a week until probably January at the earliest. If he's got a recurring groin problem, it's going to be a while, which makes Enzo a great long-term pick. The Chelsea fixtures, long-term, like, the short-term ones are good, but also, like, if you keep going all the way to game week 19, you get Arsenal, but then it's Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, then it's Newcastle, but then it's Villa and Bournemouth at home, then it's City. And then even then, like, if you manage to hold him, they have a really nice run from 21 to 27 as well. I do think there will be a slight bit of Chelsea rotation, but I wouldn't let it put you off going there. But I wouldn't buy him this week, and I'm not buying him this week. I'll probably buy him. What will probably happen is he will end up playing. He'll end up scoring. He'll look like he's rising in price tonight, and I'll have to make Saturday transfers or something like that. Is probably the world. Is probably the way it happens. I used to like Monday night players. I do still like Monday night players. Yeah. Do I think Enzo will either start or play nothing? This is a cliche that I was listening to a stream. I think it was the Q&A on the Scout channel with Az and Tom this week, where they were talking about FPL cliches, and someone playing 90 or 0 feels like one of them. And this is just an observation. I feel like Caicedo is a player who could be on the bench, but I do think starting or not being in the squad at all is a reasonable option for a lot of players returning from injury. So yeah, if it means you want to buy Enzo and you've got a first sub, that's fine. That's all good. Like, on the wildcard draft I built, I went And I went Enzo because I had Saar first sub on that draft, and that is fine. But if your first sub is Tarkowski, Tarkowski shouldn't be my first sub. It should look like that. It should look like that. But, yeah, did I save that? Yeah. And, I mean, vice captain this week's pretty difficult. Maybe it does stay... Yeah, like, if you've got Ndai first sub, I don't mind that. Xhaka to Paqueta, I like Paqueta, yes. He's on a lot more set pieces with James Ward-Prowse just being out of the team. So, yeah, I don't mind it. By the way, you might not have noticed because it's in all my videos, but I made the stream background the same as my video background with all the stuff, so I hope you like it. And I also rotated it because I had the top corner over there down here and vice versa, but I wear a lot, not today, but anyone who watches the stuff, whereas I wear a lot of navy. I wear a lot of navy jumpers, a lot of navy t-shirts, which when you've got a dark background and dark hair and a navy t-shirt on, you don't see me basically. So I moved it all around. But I would go Enzo Fernandez on wildcard, yes, and just have a good first sub, which you will. Everyone on wildcard has, even if it's like Xhaka, or a decent, like a Richards or something, most people have got a decent first sub on wildcard. You're 0.2 million short of Rosen and Enzo. Should I do stack to Saar this week? Yeah, if you can't afford Enzo, Saar is next. If you're buying this week, I probably would go Saar anyway now. Why am I sticking with Bruno? So I still like the upcoming fixtures. I still think he has a lot of routes to points, right? He takes some set pieces. He's still probably on penalties. He's still good for DEFCON. He has assist with threat. He just has a lot of things. And it's also to then the squad structure. If I want to go and buy a Salah, a Palmer, or a Saka in the future, okay, there are other ways that I could do it, but having that sort of price point is very easy then to do it. Like, to get to Salah, I have to free up 5 million. But if my other option was to upgrade... Because if I sold... The other option was to do Bruno and stack to Enzo and Saar. And if I'm not going to sell Semenyo, which the plan is probably not to sell him for a long time, the next most expensive midfielder that I'd be willing to sell is probably Ndai or Enzo, who is 6.5 million. For me to free up enough money to go from 6.5 million to Salah is what? 8 million. So for me to free up 8 million, Gyökeres to a non-playing forward only frees up half of that. It is partly to do with the squad structure, but also I still think Bruno has some nice fixtures coming up, and I think he's very involved in what United do, and if they ever were to turn it around, he'd have some involvement. Is Reece James a shout? I think there'll be too much rotation with him and Gusto, so no, I wouldn't buy Reece. Just to recap on all the Chelsea questions in the chat. Sorry, first of all, Jack Grealish, he cannot play this week because it is against Manchester City. He is not injured. He's not suspended. He just can't play because it is his parent club. But I would just keep Grealish probably, especially like Grealish. I think Grealish to Enzo has been really popular this week. Yeah. As always, I've got my phone. If anyone wants to tag me in anything they see on Twitter, whether it's Chelsea related or something else, it's not to send me your teams. It's in case there's anything like... Yes, if anything you want me to see. So, let's go. Wildcard, Burn or Timber? Timber. We haven't actually spoken that much about Timber. What have I just seen that caused the long pause? Someone just replied to my thing saying that I put Enzo on the thumbnail when I don't know if he's going to start or not. Yeah, I did. That's what caused the long pause. But I was also searching it. Yes. Bench one of Xavi, Reinders, or Minte. Bench one, probably Xavi Simmons actually. Probably Xavi Simmons. If I had a wild card, would I use it or save it? If I had a wild card, I wouldn't be wild carding my team. Yeah. Is Enzo going to start? Probably. Like, he's 60% in my ranking. That's not enough to buy someone, I don't think. Being a cautious manager, what would I do? Play Richards and Senesi or Richards and Gay? I'd probably bench Richards. I'd play Gay and Senesi if you've got all three of those. Will Chalobah start? Probably. I think Fofana will be the one that doesn't start, but I can't say with enough confidence. Would I sell Caicedo to try and afford Salah? If the downgrade of Caicedo to someone else can afford you Salah, you're pretty close to getting them. But I don't imagine that's going to do enough when Salah's so expensive. But yes, if it's one of the many things you could do, like Caicedo to Xhaka to afford Salah is fine, but I think there's probably better ways to free up the money. Do I play Senesi, bench Gay, or play Alderette? I'd play Alderette and Gay over Senesi probably. Reinders or Minte? Pope as a goalkeeper. I like Pope as the goalkeeper. I think he's top for goalkeepers to buy this week. And I like Reinders over Minte. If you've got Reinders, I'd keep him and play him this week, yeah. Xhaka or Paqueta, or just keep the 0.9 million and use Xhaka. I just play Xhaka this week. I don't think you need to make the swap this week when Xhaka has Wolves at home. That transfer might be more beneficial to you next week. Who would I start, Ndai or Reinders? Reinders over Ndai. If I was to bench one of my attackers this week, Ndai would be the first to drop out. Is it worth a hit to get João Pedro? Probably not. I mean, I don't know who you're selling. Like, if it's Chris Wood to João Pedro for a hit, then maybe I'd say yes because you just want him in. But if it's, like, I don't know. Like, I was going to say Gyökeres, but Gyökeres to João Pedro is not worth a hit. No. So, yeah, why not Stack? I feel like that was a question I started answering and then didn't get to the answer of. So, the thing with Stack is he's not 100% nailed anymore. They've got one of their midfielders back, and Longstaff and Ampadu feel nailed. He should start, though. But also, he's not taking set pieces anymore. And his DEFCON is just not reliable enough. And this is probably not a game where you expect loads of DEFCON. He's had 8. So if I don't think he's going to get DEFCON, he's not taking set pieces. He's basically either got to score a free kick or get points from open play. He's just lost the little things like the set pieces and the DEFCON and the 90 minutes. And also, this is the other thing, is for him to get DEFCON, he's got to be playing 90, and he played 66 last week. So I will almost certainly be upgrading him in either Game Week 9 or Game Week 10. The reason that I might not upgrade him in Game Week 9, just to make that clear, I do plan on upgrading him next week to Enzo. But if, let's say, Enzo's not in the squad today, and Game Week 9 rolls around, I can't buy Sarr next week because he goes away to Arsenal. And I then, unless I can buy, if Enzo's still a down next weekend, as an example, I then can't buy Sarr either. In which case, I would probably roll again and then do the transfers the week after. Longstaff is better than Stack. Yeah, I agree. And he's also slightly cheaper now. I would not be buying Stack. I saw Stack was quite close to a price rise last night. I would not be buying Stack. Xhaka's better. I prefer Xhaka over them all, if I'm honest. Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at Rodon. I think Rodon will be the cheap defender I could buy. The only thing is, with those couple of moves, I have enough for a 4.4 defender, which could be Mavropanos, and it also could be Tosin. So that's also the benefit to me waiting a week, because if West Ham play and look good defensively and Mavropanos he's getting so many DEFCON, I could do that. If Chelsea play, Tosin starts and he looks good, and Chelsea look good defensively, then I could go to Tosin. I could also go to Diouf. There are quite a lot of defenders that I could look at 4.4. Yeah, like Shivrag has just said in the chat, like I could go to Diouf. Rodon is probably the favourite because I will need to play them in my team next week. But, so they have to have a good fixture next week in 9. Yeah, but of all the fixtures in game week 9, Chelsea is good, Leeds are good, West Ham's not bad. If anyone's got other 4.4 Mukiele, the only issue is Sunderland go away to Chelsea next week, and I need to play them next week. I was just having a look. Who else? What are the other fixtures next week? Van Heck. Yeah, Van Heck is another one. Who do they have in 9? They've got United away, though, so I probably won't buy him. Surely we get some early news. Chelsea, unfortunately, is not a team we often get it for. We haven't had it for a while. There were rumours about why it dried up and everything, but yeah, we used to get it quite a lot about 3 years ago, and then it just, like that, it disappeared. But no, we haven't had Chelsea reliable leaks consistently for a while, so no. Like we might get it and we'll hold out for it, but yeah. Bruno for another missed penalty in your team. Woo, yeah, I know. Who's the best team for leaks? Probably City, I would say now. They have massively cut back on leaks, but also they moved the FPL deadline, which massively combated leaks, because there used to be an hour, the deadline used to be an hour before kickoff, but the media or some media people used to get the lineup an hour and 15 minutes before kickoff to prepare articles, to prepare graphics and all that sort of stuff, which meant there was a 15-minute window where you had the first game where the media had the lineup and the FPL deadline hadn't passed, and we would get leaks that way. But when they moved the deadline an hour and a half before kickoff, you completely removed that. So the only way we get leaks now is actual sources from the clubs or people having connections rather than just the sort of media, which makes it a lot harder to get. And it makes it much easier for the clubs to clamp down on, because the club can just go, sorry, who's leaking this? And they know it's someone internally. Whereas if it was before, they would know it could just be part of the media team. Saniam, Bruno to Saka, you have money in the bank, play Van der Ven or Senesi. I'd play Senesi over over Van der Ven. And if you've got the money, then yes, you can do that, yeah. I don't mind the Bruno to Saka move, if that all makes sense in terms of leaks. Bit of a tangent. Do I think Caicedo will start? Probably yes. I think he's more likely than Enzo will. I don't know. Let me check their Instagrams. Let me check if... yeah. Let me check. Yeah, Enzo still hasn't posted anything. It's probably yeah. Probably is enough to put me off unless we see anything. Does just mean I'm playing and Die and Bruno this week, which isn't great. Eze I like. I still don't trust Arteta not to play Marino in that position for one of the games. But yeah, I don't mind Eze. I'm not sure he's worth the money over some of the 6.5s, particularly because at some point we will see Odegaard back. Now, Odegaard seems to pick up apparently, an Arsenal fan in the chat will be able to tell me. Apparently, Odegaard has got injured in every home Premier League game this season. He's been subbed off in the first half or something crazy, which means we might not see Odegaard back ready for a while, in which case Eze is a good pick, but I'm not sure if I'm not even sure if he's that much better than Light Rice. Correct, yeah, he's right, yeah. It's wild. Any Arsenal... dear. Funny. The other Odegaard injuries were just small shoulder knocks. Yeah, they were. I think it was something like he was the first player to be subbed off in the first half in 3 in a row. It's possible. Gyökeres to Voltemada, Bruno to Saka and Tarkowski to Burn. Not 3 transfers that I think are particularly worth it this week, personally. Bruno and Romero to Saka and Diouf. Exact funds. I don't mind that if the downgrade of Romero to Diouf gives it. I don't know whether Diouf is the best one. Let's see how they get on Monday. But if you want to go there, I don't mind him. He's one of the 4.4 options that I have. 5 free transfers. What would I do? If I had my team and 5 free transfers, I'd probably do Tarkowski to Rodon and stack to Enzo, even if it just meant benching Enzo if I had 5 frees. That Chelsea lineup is going to be so interesting to see. Both who's playing at centre-back, who's playing the number 10, is Caicedo starting, is Enzo starting, who's playing on the wings, and is João Pedro up front or in the number 10? Because it could be João Pedro in the 10, because there's no Enzo, and then it's like George or Mark Guiu up front. Is it going to be Chalobah and Tosin, or is Fofana going to start over one of them? Is it going to be Enzo in the 6 with João Pedro in the 10? Is it going to be Andre Santos and João Pedro? Or is it going to be Andre Santos, Enzo, and then João Pedro up front? There are so many variables. You've got both Enzo and Alderete should you bench boost. The Enzo one is up to you. I think Alderete will play. If it's Alderete like Dubravka, the general answer on that is take away Enzo on your bench boost. Do you think the other 3 players can comfortably score 10 points between the 3 of them? If yes, then I'd bench boost. If the answer is no, then I would save it. Because if it's like Dubravka, Alderete, and Rodon, I think they can comfortably get you to 10 if they needed to, in which case I would probably play it. But if you don't think they will, then no. Caicedo or Xhaka if on a wild card. If Caicedo, could you start Caicedo over and Die? I'd start Caicedo and Xhaka over and Die. I probably would go Caicedo over Xhaka. You're doing Bruno to Saka and Tarkowski to another defender. Who would I recommend? 5.2. Dan Burn. Yeah, I just much prefer double Arsenal defence over double Arsenal attack. I think long term there are other attackers who can get to the likes of Saka and others, but clean sheet wise, I feel like Arsenal will be right up on top. Vice, let me have a look. Would I downgrade Senesi to Mukiele to be able to afford Reinders from Xhaka? Already have double Arsenal defence and Richards now. I don't think you need to buy Reinders now. If you haven't bought Reinders now, you probably don't buy him until 13 because Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle in the next 4 after that are not great. And I actually think Xhaka is better than Reinders this week. So no, if you haven't gone Reinders, I think you just wait. I think you just wait. What time is it? Half an hour to go until the deadline. Yeah, I am going to roll my transfer. I am just wondering if Gyökeres is the right vice captain for me, but it's not a very exciting thing to be wondering about. But I think he probably is. Just with the Chelsea doubt, I don't know whether I trust João Pedro enough. Although if Enzo's out, João Pedro will take penalties for certain. I think there's still a chance he takes them, even if Enzo is on the pitch. But if Enzo doesn't play, then João Pedro is definitely on penalties. Well, I say definitely. I would be very surprised if he's not. What day of the week is Halloween? Friday the 31st. Is it a stream day? Oh, it's not. That's a shame. I was about to say we could dress up on a Friday. If it was a Friday night stream and it was Halloween, we could all come in fancy dress, but it's like it's a Saturday deadline, unfortunately. Would I dress up? I don't really do Halloween. I've never really celebrated or I don't know. Yeah, I've never really done Halloween. Why not start Stack? I just think there's enough things that have gone his way versus some of the other Leeds midfielders that he's not that great. So, is it always a Friday? No, but it can't always be Friday the 13th. No, because it's not a Friday every week. It would be a shame. You could all dress up as well. And then I could dress up and then you could watch dressed up and then it would be like fun. I wouldn't see your costumes, but yeah. Any Chelsea team news? No, nothing yet. There is a Friday every week. There is, but there's not always a Friday the 13th every week. It's always the 31st. Oh yeah, it isn't even the 30th. Anyway, let's move on. I don't know how we're on this tangent. You could has the scariest FPL player. Anyway, straight waffle. Sorry, I don't really. Yeah. Anyway, Anthony or Caicedo? I'd play probably Caicedo out of the two. I haven't had my coffee this morning. Bench one of Virgil, Van Dijk, Richards, Timber. I definitely wouldn't bench Timber. Burn, Senesi. I'd probably bench Burn. I like Burn as a pick, but I don't know if I love him this week. As I said, if you see anything on Twitter that you want me to see, then please, send me. And that does not include Andy Martin's tweet. Alf, for anyone, for any FC 26 players, I have a charity match on Tuesday evening against Alf, who has just super chatted. Thank you very much. In which case, Alf is going to be donating an awful lot of money to charity. It's 3 matches, 3 different teams for each of us in every, or a different team in every match. If you lose, you get. If you lose, you have to donate £20 to charity. So total £60 to charity will be donated, and it's going to be an expensive night for Alf. You have Ronaldo suspended on your bench boost. Dubravka, Virgil van Dijk, Anderson, Ronaldo. Should I use my transfer to remove? Yeah, someone like a Mukiele. Potentially, you could just go to. Saliba, Xhaka, or Timber Caicedo. I prefer Timber to Saliba, so definitely. Where would Caicedo be in my benching order? Probably just below Reinders. Probably below Reinders. Beatbox, I appreciate that. Opinion on bench boost. Dubravka, Tarkowski, Gravenberch, and Rodon. I would probably. I don't know the fixture combination enough for those to know if it's definitely better this week than in future weeks. But if it doesn't look great in either 10 or 11, then... 9, 10 or 11 before the next international break, then yeah, I probably would play that. Darlow or Dubravka? Probably Darlow. He's probably better this week, but I don't, I wouldn't sell. I would go Dubravka on wildcard, but if I had Darlow and Dubravka, I'd probably play Darlow this week. If you are looking to wildcard, then I would... if you're on wildcard or free hit, they're all in my complete guide video yesterday. I would just go and check that out. Have I considered selling Raya to upgrade a defender to Timber? I have a little bit. Again, I have considered it. Like, I could do Raya to, like, Sanchez or Pope and Tarkowski to Timber. It is possible. And it is something I'll consider for next week, but I'm not going to do it this week. I have considered, I actually was going to stream a FC26 when it came out a couple of weeks ago, but I had to do something on the Saturday, unfortunately, so I couldn't do it. And I haven't got around to doing it anytime since, but I am wondering about it. With less than 20 minutes to go until the deadline, if you could drop a like on the stream if you haven't already. I feel like I've hardly even plugged it to you all, but 8,000 of you in watching, thank you all very much, and 7,000 of you haven't liked. If 500 of you liked, which is what? 507,000, which is... No, like some percentage of you do it, we could hit 2,000 likes. Ryan, I appreciate it. Sarr isn't in the benching ranking. Yes, because I'd probably start him over every single player on that benching ranking. He'd be at the top of it. Sponge, how are we doing? Enjoy Bruges. It was very nice. Thank you. Xavi or hold Sarr? Or to Sarr? I'd probably sell him to Sarr, yeah. As long as you don't have to play him next week. Would I start Xhaka over and die? Yes, I would, yeah. You've only a few weeks to use your transfers. I have... Game week 16 is quite a long way away. It's 10, and I'm almost certain... If Enzo's not injured next week, I'm almost certain I'll buy him. You're on bench boost next week. Then maybe keep Xavi Simons. He's probably slightly better. I wouldn't. I'd just bin Simmons, to be honest. I'd get Sarr. You're benching Sarr on a wildcard draft, so would I start him or Reinders? Oh, in the wildcard draft. Yeah, Sarr or Reinders. Yeah, that is true. That's quite close. I mean, if you've got a benching decision where you're having to bench one of Sarr or Reinders, I'd bench Enzo probably now with the uncertainty, but... I'd probably play Reinders over Sarr. So Sarr probably isn't top of my benching ranking. He's probably just below Reinders then. Let me check the ranking. Yeah, I'd play Sarr over Bruno. So I'd probably put Sarr in at number 5. Bruno to Sarr, not unless you're using the money for something else this week. If not, I'd just roll. Because next week when Sarr goes away to Arsenal, it doesn't feel so great. 2,000 likes. Thank you very much. Happy Saturday to you all. Is Foden a good shout? No. Too much uncertainty and he's too expensive. But I would keep him if you've got him for one more week and then I'd sell him going into next week. Is it better to keep the bench boost chip until a double game week to bank on it more? So for those of you unaware, we get 2 bench boosts now. One before game week, one between 1 and 19 and one from 20 to 38. And there's not really going to be a double game week for you to bench boost with the first one. So that's why everyone's playing it at a random time. Would I get Enzo if I'm on a wildcard 8? Yes, I would, yeah. I would still own Enzo on wildcard 8, yeah. Bench and Dyer or on Burmo? Probably bench and die. I appreciate it. Some nice comments in the chat. I also want to say thank you to everyone who has left a super chat. I do my best to answer them all. But I don't often say just a big thank you for you all to sending them. I do massively appreciate it, and I do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. Would I bench Xhaka or Reinders? I'd probably play Reinders if you've got him and he's got Everton at home this week. And Dye will get DEFCON. He might do. It's not guaranteed. For a player in his position, it's not always guaranteed. He'll probably play out back on the left wing this week. And Dewsbury Hall will come back into the middle. And Dye will go back out left, which is not a bad thing. But he's slightly worse for DEFCON out there. Why have I lost confidence in Stack? His DEFCONs have gone down. And he's not fully nailed. He only played 60 last week, and he's lost all set pieces. Since Longstaff has come into the team, he hasn't taken a single set piece, a corner even. Xhaka or Longstaff? I'd go Xhaka still over Longstaff. Xhaka has DEFCON, which Longstaff doesn't. 15 minutes to deadline. Any team news? Let me check on Twitter now. If anyone tags me in anything. No. Dali, let me take a look. I apologize. Might as well. Gyökeres to Waltemada and Bruno to Saka, or Bruno to Saka and Tarkowski to Rodon. I mean, I feel like we've discussed these couple of moves quite a lot. I don't love the Gyökeres, Waltemada, Bruno, Saka switch that much, particularly this week with Waltemada going away to Brighton, which I don't think is the best fixture for him. So I'm not... Like, maybe the second swap. Probably slightly my preference. Who to bench between Caicedo, Reinders, and Illiman and Dye? Probably in Dye away at City, yeah. Yeah, just to recap on what we've know with Chelsea so far. Enzo Fernandez was not pictured in training. He wasn't pictured getting onto the team bus. Enzo Maresca said he hadn't trained. He said if he does train, he should be available, but we don't know if he's trained or not. I would say 60%, maybe he'll play. Caicedo feels slightly more likely because he was pictured in training and he has posted match day content himself, whereas Enzo Fernandez hasn't, and he normally does. Pope, Gabriel, Rodon versus Raya, Burn, Anderson. Pope, Gabriel, Rodon, Raya, Burn, Anderson. I'd go Pope, Gabriel, Rodon. Yeah. So what it means, if you've got Enzo, I would start if you've got him, probably. But I would be a little bit cautious of bench boosting if you've got him now. Alderete, I think I'd bench boost. If you've got Enzo, what I would do with your bench boost is I would take Enzo out of your team, put him last on your bench, and look at the other 3 players on your bench and say, are those 3 players capable of scoring me 10 points if Enzo Fernandez doesn't feature at all this weekend? And if he doesn't... And if it doesn't get you to the 10 without Enzo, then I wouldn't play it. The deadline says 11, not 11:30. Yeah, the deadline is in 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Wildcarded Bruno and Foster or Ndiaye and Pedro. Definitely not the Bruno option. I'd go Ndiaye and Pedro, yeah. If I was on wildcard, I wouldn't have Bruno now. Don't think. So where are we? I would keep Reinders on wildcard if I bought at 5-5. Would I sell for Xhaka? If I bought Reinders at 5-5, I'd keep him on wildcard, yeah. Start Alderete over Porro. To be honest, I probably would. I think Alderete has been really good, and he's great for DEFCON. So I think his floor is higher. So I probably would play Alderete over him. Start Richarlison or Udogi. Richarlison. Who to swap and Burmo for? Enzo, Sarr. Well, probably not Enzo. So either Sarr or you just keep Burmo this week. If I didn't have Raya, would I be doing Tarkowski to Timber this week? Quite possibly, yeah. Just not sure it's worth a double swap. Is the Enzo news on Twitter fake? I honestly haven't seen anything. So if you want to tag me in it, that would be great. But I haven't seen anything. Yeah, if someone wants to tag me in it and I can answer the question, that's fine. But I haven't seen it. I saw the one from Andy Martin, where he basically said, but Buenanotte, we also have other Argentinian players, so it doesn't mean anything. Would I get Enzo on a wild card or who for the same price? I'd get Enzo on a wild card. Just make sure you have a good first sub. Anything on Lyle Foster? No, they said he should be okay. They said he'll probably be all right, but he has had a late travel back as well. It's a joke because it's so many Argentinian players. All right, I mean, fair. Start Stack or Xavi Simons. I play Xavi Simons over Stack. Eze or Gordon in for Bruno. If yes, who? I'm not sure you need to. I would only sell Bruno this week if you need to reinvest the money in something else. So if you're not going to reinvest that money, I probably wouldn't. As you're a Chelsea supporter, how likely do I see Pedro having a banger of a game against a struggling Forest? Depends who else plays. Like if we are playing, like if Enzo and Caicedo don't play, then not that high. He needs better players around him, and if there are other players not to get sent off. So, yeah. You've done Gyökeres to Voltemada. I don't mind that. I think Gyökeres is maybe not worth the money anymore, but yeah. Yeah, lots of people looking at that transfer. White and Dye over Stack. Stack has just lost a lot of appeal for me with less minutes, less DEFCON, less set pieces that just, is too much of a worry for me. Who would I start? And captain Dan. No Haaland. So I'd captain Salah. I'd bench Foster. I'd bench Dubravka. I'd bench Estev. And I'd bench Senesi, and I'd probably consider the bench boost if you've got it, because it's a pretty strong bench. Pedro Porro or Bruno? I'd play Bruno. How long have we got? 7 minutes. Right. Pedro Porro, Senesi, Gay, Paqueta, and Dye. Would I wildcard to get Haaland in or use a free hit and wildcard next week? Raya, Porro, Senesi, Gay. I mean, if you're going to buy Haaland, I'd say you do it this week. But because the upcoming fixtures for City are a little bit more difficult. Like if you haven't bought Haaland to this point, are you going to buy it when the fixtures start to get a bit more difficult, or are you going to try and stick with Salah? If you've already made the gamble on Salah over Haaland for the season so far, I'd probably stick with it. Nothing on Enzo. Nothing on Enzo, no. Am I rolling? Yes. Yeah. My plan is next week to do Tarkowski to Rodon and Stack to Enzo. As long as Enzo is all right. Ben Xhaka and Dyer, definitely play Xhaka this week. And Mark Guiu could start, and it could be Pedro in the 10. Very possible. Very possible. Wayne, let me take a look. Play Senesi or Dan Burn? Senesi. So for those, lots of people asking about benching ranking questions, would I start A or start B? To be honest, I probably will move Enzo down a little bit. I might just take him off for the last little bit just because of the uncertainty. But I'll put Sar in. That's probably better. Ooh. So if those of you looking for benching rankings, I'm going to put it up in the top right-hand corner for a longer period of time now. So if you want to check it out, it will be up there for you. It is ranked. There's also a goalkeeper one, which will show up afterwards. Is Wood going to start? Probably, I would imagine so. But it is a late travel back and then an early kickoff, so it's not guaranteed. I probably would look to sell him. If you could. Would I do Foden and Mbeumo to Saka Reinders? Not this week, with Foden probably being the best of... Well, it's like Mbeumo to... Yes, I probably would actually, because you're getting Reinders. Should you start Alderete? Yes. Team similar to mine, would I bench boost? If I had my team, I'd probably be doing Tarkowski to Rodon and bench boost. Is Enzo better than a DEFCON monster? Yes. I think Enzo in that number 10 is a really good pick. Yeah. So let's go with some fire questions. If you could drop a like on the stream if you haven't, subscribe. Thank you all very much for joining and spending your Saturday morning with me. Would I bench boost Dubravka, Alderete, Stack, and Anderson? Anderson, probably, yes. Would I start Enzo? Probably. Depends how good your first sub is. But if you've got a okay first sub, I probably would chance it. Bruno, Fernandez, or Ndiaye. If I had to start one, I'd play Bruno. Play Munoz or Senesi. Munoz, definitely. Munoz, if you've got, I don't think you ever bench him. Saka or Bruno? Saka. Any team news? No, nothing. Who to bench? Kudos or Senesi? Senesi. Van de Ven or Rodon? Rodon. Bruno or Sarr? I play Sarr over Bruno. Pope or Dubravka? That is in the... If it's in one of the benching ranking with just 3 minutes to go, I'm going to move on from them. The benching rankings will be back up in just a moment. So if it's goalkeeper related or attacker related, most of it should be there. Just a caveat and go back again. Enzo Fernandez, I don't think you can buy him this week now, but if you're on wildcard, I would still own him and probably start him and just have a good first sub if that's the way you're going. If you're on bench boost with Enzo, what I would do is I would look at the other 3 players on your bench boost. And if you think those players can realistically score 10 points between them, if in the eventuality that Enzo could miss out completely, then yes, I think it's fine to play your bench boost. But if you don't think those 3 players will score 10 points without Enzo being there, then no, I don't think I'd play the bench boost. My team is locked in. I'm rolling my transfer this week. The Sunderland defender, Alderete, I do expect to play, yes. I am not doing the Bruno Gyökeres Saka Voltamada switch. I don't think it's necessarily needed this week. It is something that will be on radar. It'll be on radar next week. Take a hit for Dewsbury Hall to Sarr on bench boost. Probably is good if you have the money to do that long term. Senesi or Ndai. I'd play probably Ndai over Senesi. Caicedo, I'd go Reinders over Caicedo on a free hit. Do I think Caicedo will play? I think Caicedo will be much more likely to play than Enzo, but there's a doubt still about both of them. Mukiele or Senesi. Mukiele this week. Will Foster start? We don't have very much concrete stuff, and I would say probably, given how big a game it is, but that's about all we have to go on. Enzo news, we don't have anything at all. And I'm looking on Twitter. Anyone wants to tag me in anything, I will take a look. Will Enzo play? I honestly don't know. I don't think I'd buy him now. Unless you're on a wild card. How long have we got? One into the final minute. Alderete or Senesi, Xhaka or Minte. I'd probably play the double Sunderland. If you don't want to play double Sunderland, Xhaka's probably the one I'd swap to Minte. I would play Alderete. Start Enzo or Sarr. I'd be inclined still to say Enzo. Start Enzo or DCL. I'd still say Enzo. Virgil, Van Dijk or Esteve. I'd play Van Dijk. Play Senesi or Van de Ven. It's close. Probably Senesi. Mo Salah is the second best captain. Yes, behind Erling Haaland. He's a good differential if you have him. Enzo or Senesi. I'd play Enzo. If you've got Enzo, I would probably start him. And then just hope he either starts or doesn't feature at all. Is it worth bringing in a defender for a hit if you don't have any? If you've got suspended defenders, then yes. That is the final 1 minute to go before the deadline. The deadline timer always ends 1 minute before the deadline so that you have time to go and lock in your teams. Go and look at everything you need to. Make sure your captains are there. Make sure your transfers are as they should be. My team is locked in and ready to go. I rolled my transfer. That is going to be it all for the questions. Game week 8 team locked, scoring and rolled to 4 transfers. Good luck, everyone. Have a nice weekend and enjoy the football being back. Go and check your teams, wrap everything up. That is game week 8 in the books. Locked. Yes, the Chelsea team will be out in 15 minutes. That will be a very, very interesting one. Deadline. Yeah, I don't know on Enzo. Praz went with Enzo on his wild card. Interesting. We're not going to... Oh, well, I can do my fancy challenge team for you now. Just before we do that, I want to hear predictions. Want to hear quick predictions of any Premier League player you think I'm going to get in my pack in just a moment. Guess any Premier League player. So, this stream, of course, is sponsored by... Club. Club is a free-to-play game where every few hours you get the ability to pack a player, and if you like the player, you can add them to your lineup. So let's see. Someone saying I'm going to pack Enzo, Minte, Sarr, Ndai, Stack, Caicedo, Saka, Ben-Mee, Anthony, Elliot Anderson, Romero, Isak, Murphy, Gordon, Dallo, Joe Linton, Gakpo, Gordon. If you want to download it, it's completely free to play. It is so good. A little addition on top of FPL. I honestly play it every day. Let's see who we're going to get. You can scan the QR code up above if you want to download it. The league code to join my league. We've got 2,000 of you in every stream in that as well. Let's have a look. Who's going to be? Core, please be better. Yes, rare. Elite. Elite forward, Arsenal. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Victor Gyökeres. I actually already have him. I just get additional contracts from him. That is pretty good. That is how my team is lining up for this week. Enzo is in it, currently flagged. If he doesn't play... Oh, I don't have any cover. I'll have to change it if he's not in the lineup. Hopefully that's a good sign. My phone is scratchy. I know it's quite old now. Yes. Yeah. And that is all. I am going to head off. I have done a fantasy challenge team. The video is up on the main... Oh, the game's updating, so I can't even show you. Let me show you on my phone. No, I can't even look at that. Or I can. This is where we ended up. Sanchez in goal. Timber, Salah, Haaland captain, Calvert-Lewin, and Voltemada. I don't play Rocket League. I've never really got into it. No, I'm more of a FIFA player. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Hopefully the Enzo decision goes the way you need it to. Hopefully Chelsea win. You listen to me on Forest Focus. I appreciate it. But yeah, have a good weekend, everyone. I appreciate you all tuning in. Good luck with the FPL. Enjoy it being back, and I will catch you all very soon.